Now, from this slide onwards, we are going to concentrate on the core part of our today's discussion, that is importance of the criteria and prioritization of the criteria. Here in this slide, we are trying to prioritize the criteria, and in the further slides, I am going to prioritize the key indicators for you from every criteria. Okay. Now the all seven criteria are there in front of you, and UGPG weightage is also given in front of you. Just concentrate on the last column, which has got the heading of priority. And in that column, in bold type, I have given the priority. And as per these priorities, if you give treatment to all these criteria, I'm sure your journey of making SSR will be enjoyable. Not only that, but the results out of your SSR would be wonderful, marvelous. When we made the SSR at our institution, Marathwada Mitra Mandals IMART, we were confident about A grade. But we got that crown of 1+ also. That was just because of this priority and the treatment which we gave to the these criteria separately. Got it? So the first priority is given to the criteria number 2, teaching, learning and evaluation. Number 1, there is obvious reason for its weightage. Its weightage is 35%, 350. Okay, this is the first reason. Second reason, why this why this criteria is important? Because this criteria describes what efforts do you take for teaching, how innovatively you bring in some teaching methodology to attract students towards learning and make this teaching learning process enjoyable for both teacher as well as students. There is one common complaint across the globe that the students nowadays are not interested in the classroom teaching. Why? Because they have got the gadgets in their pocket, in their hands, like smartphones and the laptops, because of which whatever we teach in the classes is easily available on Google. If it is easily available on Google and in better format, better fashion, in better graphics, with very good colorful images, when those things are available. Not only that, there are some online lectures also available, which are associated with animated PowerPoint presentations. If such impressive material is available, in attractive material is available on Google, why should they be interested in your classroom training or classroom teaching? So what is your task as a teacher? Task of the teacher is to improve your teaching methodology, and whatever the society is changing, technology is changing, and the students are becoming more conversant to the technology than the teachers. They pick up the technologies faster than the teachers. Teachers remain complacent, including myself. This is not my complaint, but this is the situation which is all over, whether it is traditional education or management education. Even in management education, which is the professional education, okay, but even here I observe that there are certain faculty members who utilize their old PPTs. 10-12 साल पहले की PPTs they use in the classes, and the references become old, references become obsolete, and the students, they observe that what is the quality of our teacher. So simply they just opt out from the classrooms, okay, whether it is offline or online, they opt out from the classrooms, and if at all they are interested, they go to the Google, and from online they get some material for their own learning. Okay, so in order to stop this and in order to attract the students in our classroom, whether it is online or offline, okay, what innovative methodologies you come out, that is to be described here. And not only that, the loop doesn't complete over only teaching and learning, but the evaluation part is very important. How your evaluation is robust, how your evaluation is particularly the internal evaluation. Forget the external evaluation because that is done by the university. Okay, that is not given more importance. but NAC gives more importance to your internal evaluation, CIE, continuous internal evaluation. If your continuous internal evaluation is up to the mark, if you use the direct methods and indirect methods in your evaluation, and you use different types of the combination of rubrics, then your evaluation process becomes most robust, and that satisfies the NAC. And here the chances are there that you can get maximum weightage in this criteria itself. So this criteria number 2, teaching, learning and evaluation, is highly important. You must prioritize it. You must devote more time for this particular criteria. जितना मटेरियल यू कैन डिग आउट, जितना मटेरियल आप इसमें डालोगे उतना कम है. Maximum importance is to be given to this one. Second priority is to be given to the student support and progression. Now just concentrate on both of these two criteria, teaching, learning and evaluation, and student support and progression. Do you feel that both are connected very closely? Because NAC gives total concentration on the student development. They are not interested in your buildings, they are not interested in your infrastructure, they are not interested in any other fancy work, but they are more interested in the development of the students. And for that development, what efforts individual faculty members have taken and what efforts the entire institution has taken, that is given more importance in both of these criteria. Just look at that. And that's the reason both of these criteria have got more weightage as compared with the other criteria. More weightage is given to these two criteria. Okay. What guidance do you provide for your students? What support do you provide for your students for progression in their life, for progression in their career? How do they make their career? Just after taking the degree of BA, BCom, BSc, BBA, BCA, whatever the graduation degrees are there, out of those degrees, how are you making them more employable? How are you making them more receptive, more adaptive? So that they progress for the higher education, they progress even if the higher education is not possible for certain student, and if those students would like to go for the job after their graduation, are they capable of getting the jobs? I still remember when I was doing BSc at KMC, from my batch, there were many students who immediately took up the jobs after BSc. Only few of us went for the higher education, and I was one of them, and I went for the post-graduation in management. But majority of us, of our batch, they opted for the jobs, because we can say that by that time, whatever the kind of jobs were produced in those days, they were capable of accepting the jobs, and the jobs were all available. That was another thing. Khopoli was rather known for the belt for the chemical companies, and the chemistry graduate students, they had more chances to get the job into those nearby companies. IOC, Alta, now these names might have got the old names, because they might have changed their names, or the companies might have changed also. The Hyco, Pepco, such kind of companies were available in those days. I'm talking about early 90s. 26, 27, 28 years back story. The students were capable of taking the job, which means that now the situation is the number of jobs have been shrinked. Number of jobs available in the market are less. Population is increasing. Number of job opportunities are decreasing. Now in this situation, how are you making your students capable to get the jobs? Are you making them employable or not? What is that progression? So encourage your students for the higher studies, for post-graduation education, and after which they can definitely get a good job opportunity. All these efforts for student support and progression are mentioned in this particular criterion number 5. So it is second priority, or it is second important criterion. Third important criterion is curricular aspects. Now, particularly for the colleges like us who are affiliated to some university, isn't it? And when the colleges are affiliated, it becomes mandatory for us to follow the syllabus given by university. We do not have any liberty to make amendments or changes. We cannot. We are not allowed to. We are not the autonomous institution. We are not university. We are the affiliated colleges, and we have to follow the norms or the curriculum prescribed by university. But even if this is the situation that we are not the decision makers in the syllabus, still you have to show your efforts into curriculum making. Means what? In the process of university, normally universities keep on changing the syllabus every after 3 to 5 years. NAC comes every after 5 years. So within that 5 years period, at least once the syllabus is revised. What is the contribution of your faculty members in the syllabus revision process, which is conducted by university? University के पास आसमान से नहीं टपकते हैं लोग. Those who decide the content of the curriculum, they call some faculty members only. They make the committee, isn't it? And subject wise the committees are made, and in those committees number of faculty members are associated, and those faculty members contribute in the improvement of the content of syllabus. If this is the process, please understand this process. If this is the universal process, what is your contribution? The contribution of the faculty members of your college into this process. If you have done it, but there is no documentary proof, contact your dean immediately, dean of the university, and get the certificate from dean that you contributed into this particular process of syllabus framing, syllabus improvement, syllabus changes, and get the certificate. That certificate will give you value in this particular criteria. Another thing is, if you identify certain gaps between the curriculum prescribed by the university and the demand of the industry. See, there is always discrepancy between the demand of the industry and curriculum given by the university. Industry always complains that the syllabus is not up to the mark, it is obsolete, usko change karna padega, isko update nahi kiya hai, and the students which are produced with this obsolete or outdated syllabus, those students are of no use to our industry. We have to give them the training for 6 months. We have to invest on them for training. And for that training purpose, we don't have time as well as money. Okay, so this is why companies or the industry do not accept our students. Very simple. If your industry institute interaction cell or placement cell or industry cell, whatever you call, is capable enough to have an interaction with the industry, you can definitely understand these expectations of the industry, and as per the expectations of the industry, you just identify this gap. Expectation of the industry and curriculum given by the university. University curriculum, it is mandatory for you to deliver to your students. Uske upar hi exam hone wali hai, isn't it? So that is something very important, mandatory part. But at the same time, this expectation also we cannot ignore, expectation from the industry. So to fill up this gap, what are your efforts? What extra do you give more than the prescribed syllabus from by your university? What extra do you give? That is mandatory. That is to be given here. And I'm very proud to tell you one thing, that if you see our mark sheet, evaluation sheet given by the NAC, you will identify that in this curricular aspect criteria, we secured 100% weightage, 100% points. 100%. Even though we are not university and we are also not the autonomous college, we are the affiliated college. In spite of that, when the things are not in our hands, still we could create so much of number of proofs. Actually we had contributed, we just collected those proofs and we put it in front of the NAC, and we received 100% marks in curricular aspects.